Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're getting into a classic, Howard Schultz's memoir, Pour Your Heart Into It. Now, this isn't just a book about coffee. It's really a story about how a deeply personal promise can end up building a global empire.
You see, the whole Starbucks story doesn't really begin with a coffee bean. It starts right here, in Brooklyn in the 1960s, with a family in crisis. Howard Schultz was just a kid when his dad, a blue-collar worker, had a terrible accident and broke his ankle on the job. And just like that, he was fired. No income, no health insurance, absolutely no safety net. That feeling of powerlessness, of seeing his dad defeated, that stuck with him.
It's a pretty incredible question, right? How does that moment of family tragedy plant the seed for a business philosophy that would change everything? Well, that's what we're going to unpack today, this idea of building a company that would treat people with the dignity his own father never got.
So let's really get into it. To understand a brand as huge as Starbucks, you have to go back to the beginning, to that original wound that really sparked the entire journey. The book itself, published way back in 1997, is part memoir, part business guide. But honestly, it's so much more than that. It's a really personal look into the mind of the guy who built it all, and it reveals the emotional heart behind one of the most famous brands on the planet. And this, right here, is the key to everything. He was haunted by this memory of his father as a beaten man, bouncing between thankless jobs. So Schultz became completely driven by this need to create a workplace that was the total opposite, a place built on respect, dignity, and a real safety net. Okay, so how do you get from this deeply personal mission to coffee? Well, that's where the story takes a fascinating turn. Let's talk about the moment of discovery that changed absolutely everything. So when Schultz first joined Starbucks, it was just a well-respected local roaster in Seattle. They sold amazing whole bean coffee that you'd buy, take home, and brew yourself. Coffee was basically a product, like something you just grab at the store. But then, on a business trip to Italy, his entire world gets turned upside down. He walks into these Italian espresso bars and sees a completely different universe. It's about romance, community, art. It was theater, a daily ritual that brought people together. I mean, this quote just says it all. He had this lightning bolt moment. The real opportunity wasn't just selling bags of beans. It was about recreating that feeling of community and connection back in the US. He saw a vision for a third place. Not home, not work, but somewhere in between. But, having a brilliant idea is one thing. Actually bringing it to life? That turned out to be an incredible uphill battle. The original Starbucks owners, they weren't buying his vision, so he had to go out on his own and build this dream from nothing. 217. Just let that number sink in. He pitched his idea for Italian-style coffee bars to 242 potential investors, and 217 of them said no. They couldn't see it. They thought he was crazy. He was living this, quote, day in and day out. Facing that much rejection, he learned firsthand just how much grit and perseverance it takes to turn a powerful belief into a real company, all while his wife was pregnant with their first child. The pressure was immense. But he kept going, and eventually, after finally scraping the money together and buying the Starbucks name, he got his chance to build the company he had been dreaming about for years. And this is where he makes good on that promise to his father. He created a company based on a totally radical idea for the time, treating your employees like partners. We're talking full health insurance and stock options, bean stock, even for part-time baristas. It was a huge gamble. The common wisdom was to cut employee costs, but Schultz bet that investing in his people would create a loyalty that would pay off in amazing customer service, and boy, was he right. This kind of big thinking is exactly what fuels their incredible growth. Store by store, he was proving that a culture that puts people first could actually crush the competition. He was totally rewriting the corporate playbook of the time. Okay, so what's the big lesson we should all walk away with from this incredible story? Let's boil it all down. This central idea of the book is pretty simple. A company's soul is its single greatest competitive advantage. Schultz truly believed that if you take amazing care of your employees, they'll take amazing care of your customers. It's a win-win. And really, that's the bottom line. You can't fake this stuff. Authenticity isn't something you cook up in a marketing meeting. It has to be real. It has to come from a true story, and you have to prove it with your actions, day in and day out. So for our feedback, look,
This book is an amazing source of inspiration for building a brand with soul. It's a must-read. But you have to remember it was written before the internet changed everything. So think of it as a masterclass in culture and values, not necessarily a tactical guide for a modern tech startup.
For its powerful and timeless lessons on leadership, authenticity, and building a company culture that truly lasts, we're giving Pour Your Heart Into It a solid 8 out of 10. And if this story got you fired up, we've got 2 more for you. Check out Shoe Dog by Phil Knight for a much grittier, chaotic, but equally personal story of building Nike. And if you want the data behind why companies like this succeed, read Built to Last. And that's all for this explainer. If you enjoyed getting to the heart of a big idea in just a few minutes, do us a favor and make sure to follow and subscribe for more. Thanks for tuning in.